All right, everybody, welcome back. Live at Drew's house. Another edition. Hope everybody is doing okay. Hope everybody's doing all right out there as we get deep into the spring. We hit 80 degrees the other day. We're flying, and things are looking good on the weather front. So, very thrilled to bring in the mayor, Newburyport, Donna Holaday. Hello, Mayor. How you doing? Welcome back.
Oh, it's nice to be back. I'm doing just fine, Drew, and yourself?
Doing excellent, thank you. Big moves in the States. Governor has,
Yes.
well, he's kind of, I think we were just talking off the air, kind of flipped the switch a little bit. What was your reaction to that? Surprising or not really?
I knew we were heading in that direction, and I assumed we would probably see full opening before August 1st, but it was a little bit surprising how quickly it's upon us.
I imagine the questions start flooding your office from the locals. I assume that's already happened?
Oh, very much so. I mean, the biggest question is, what are you going to do about the mandatory mask zone? When can we take our masks off? Restaurant owners asking, well, can we still insist that people wear masks if they're not vaccinated and have an honor system? So there's lots of questions. I think the health and safety issues regarding mask wearing and, today outdoor sports, kids under 18 didn't have to wear it. They could take their masks off, and then by the 29th of May, it's all masks are off. But it's more the implications of things that we have set up in terms of how we're functioning as a municipality, which is of concern. For example, 60 days after the lift of the emergency, which would take us into, say, mid-August, that's when outdoor dining and liquor supposedly expire then, because that's the way the emergency orders were written. And that would be like in the height of our summer season, and this $260,000 state grant we got. We built all these beautiful parklets downtown for outdoor dining and being able to drink alcoholic beverages. So we are a little bit ahead of the curve in the fact that we have an ordinance that we have before the council now to allow outdoor dining and alcohol in perpetuity going forward. But this is not that easy for other communities who haven't started that, especially if things like in towns have to happen at town meetings and they've already happened this year. Yeah, so they're trying to figure out a bridge there. There's still lots of questions about what do we do about hybrid meetings. Because I just know that, in 2 weeks, I'm not going to have members of 33, 34 boards and commissions say, sure, I'm fine. We'll squeeze into city council chambers and begin all over again. I just know that that's not the case. And I think the other piece that's really important is we have seen a huge increase in public involvement, attending meetings because you can from home and still watch the kids and, keep the meeting going and check in when you want to. And it's been really successful in increasing public participation. So I'm hoping we can figure out a way to continue our hybrid models.
I think I was having coffee one morning a few months back, and I saw a Boston Globe article with you pictured, and they were talking about how you will not be running again. And congratulations on a great run. First of all, this is the first time I've seen you on since I read that and since I knew of that decision from you. Kind of a crazy way to go out. Crazy last year, right?
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the way I had anticipated, but I knew when I ran 3.5 years ago that it was going to be my last term. It's a lot, it's 24/7, and it'll be 12 years when I'm done, and I'm really proud of my administration and our track record and what we've accomplished for the city. But I think as I've said, I think a sign of good leadership is when it's time to pass the baton.
Yeah, the one of the things I found fascinating, I think you probably saw plenty of this, and I'm sure you have plenty of people that come up to you, but you got a lot of thank yous for helping lead us through this pandemic, and I saw that on the social medias and all that stuff, but I'm sure you got a lot of different people saying that to you in different ways, but that must be flattering. I know you're used to plenty of praise, but that must have been very flattering for this particular time in a pandemic to get those kind of nice words.
Absolutely. And a local reporter who we oftentimes don't see eye to eye, he actually told me that especially early on when we were so challenged and frightened because we didn't know. This is when we were shutting down playgrounds and I'm putting mulch in skate parks, and just like don't touch any surfaces and wear gloves. And I mean, we just didn't know about enough about this virus. Not that we know more, but we still have a lot to learn about this. But I think that was, you know, uh, very frightening for the community as we were trying to figure this out. And that's when it made sense for me to start doing these weekly address here at Port Hub. And, I just, after having a sort of debate back and forth on an issue with this reporter, he said, on another note, can I just tell you that you give me such calm and such reassurance after I listen to your updates, because I know that you are leading our city through this and are on top of all of that. And that was, I just thought it stuck with me because it was such a, a really deep and genuine um, feedback from someone who, as I said, we haven't always seen eye to eye, but to know that, that there was a sense of reassurance that I was providing to the community is really what you want at times like this.
And not just a reporter, a resident, as you just said. So
yes, and a reporter, yes.
Yeah, you said you knew 3.5 years ago. I wonder. I bet there's a lot of, whether it be from a mayor position or just a local leader in general, that has gone through this year, and maybe you can relate with this. Just gone through and said, you know what, I need a change. Can you picture that? Because this has not been easy being in leadership roles during all this.
Oh no, it hasn't at all, and it just, I think, absolutely solidified that I made the right decision, that not to run, again for another term. I don't know what the next path will be for me, but I'm certainly not ready to, walk away from the workforce. I just am not sure where I'll end up at this point, but I can walk away feeling that I've done as much as I could. I had a couple more things on my bucket list that I unfortunately will not be able to check off, but I can give them sort of partial credit. At this point, at least things have started. But, you always want to walk when you're leaving a job, a city, in a better place than when you started. So.
What's the one that you're going to be following just to see if Newburyport can make it happen? Is there one that's going to kind of stick with you and you really hope gets done? What would be that one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this was high on my list, was our central waterfront, where we had the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority and the Waterfront Trust and the Harbor Master and the Citizens for an Open Waterfront, and way too many stakeholders on the waterfront. And for 30 years, we've been fighting, debating, litigating what to do about this property. And we finally were able to dissolve the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority. The city at this moment has control of the land as we are moving forward with Sasaki, which is a great landscape architect and has a real strong history with the city. They were here during urban renewal and did our master plan for downtown and in street, and they really wanted this contract, and I'm really happy that they have it. And they're working on coming together with 3 conceptual designs for the central waterfront, and I'm looking forward to more open space and no more dirt parking lots. A long time coming for the city. So that's one that I'm really looking forward to see finished. And I had hoped to see a new site for youth services, but that process will have to continue in terms of finding a home, and affordable housing will hopefully come forward with the Brown School. But we've started those processes, but those were a few things I would have liked to have seen a little further along.
I remember, and it struck me because I knew the answer. You could tell that there was some truth there. I remember asking Boston Mayor Marty Walsh at the time, before he moved on to Labor Secretary, if he had pandemic regrets through this, if the decisions he made he wished he hadn't. And he pretty much said the answer is definitely yes. Just now is not the time to go back and look at them. There will be a day for that, and he'll go back and try to figure out what they were. He's just said it was a virus that we were learning about and we didn't know much about, and you try to make the best decisions at the time. But he definitely had some. I wonder, are there any for you that's information you wish you knew at a certain point of time, or anything that, even if it's not Newburyport centric, anything that you wish you did differently through all this?
I really can't say that there's something really specific that I wish we had done differently. We really worked very closely with our local hospital CEO to be sure we were all on the same page. We kept close contact with the schools in terms of their health advisory team in terms of reopening. I really can't think of things that we could have done differently. Um, I think I wish we had had more funding outside of just for, really restrictive small businesses to help, sort of the medium-sized businesses that really have struggled. And I wish we had had more support to be able to help our nonprofits and our arts and culture, which is, we're just starting to, with some small grants, helping them to come back. So that's been really hard, and I think everybody's missing music and dancing and theater and art and all of the things that help us feel better at times like this, right?
People probably remember last time we talked, you had mentioned that you had some music in the family there, so that hit especially close to home.
Absolutely. But I'm really happy. I've been working with, had a couple meetings with the executive board of Yankee Homecoming, and we were going forward anyway, knowing that August 1st was going to be the date, and that's sort of the beginning of the week of Yankee Homecoming. So we knew we could at least do a good portion of Yankee Homecoming, maybe with some modifications, and based on the data and where we were in August. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's a go.
Yeah.
Fireworks, music, parades. It's going to be very exciting.
I can tell there's a little bit of I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe not worry, but there's a little bit of that in your voice, just that whole we're going to go from
hesitancy. Yes, because it's hard to go from all of this to all of a sudden, okay, it's all done. And it's not done. We know that. We still had deaths yesterday. We still have cases. Granted, we're at 1% or lower in terms of our positivity rate, and Newburyport's done incredibly well, in terms of being able to set up a clinic here with at our senior center with Beth Israel Leahy and Anna Jakes Hospital, and then the Lower Merrimack clinic. We have done really, really well. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been vaccinated, and now we're reaching down into the kids, 15 to 12-year-olds. So I think we have something like 95% or higher of all our seniors are vaccinated, and it's somewhere it's probably closer to the 70% now of those who have had at least one shot. So we've got good stats at this point. So we just have to keep moving forward and, hope that other strains don't find their way here.
Did you do the 2-shot one yourself, or?
Yes. Yes.
I did as well. I wonder, you mentioned the kids there, and what was your thought process on the schools? Are you a great delegator? Was it, we'll leave it to the people that are in leadership positions for the schools, and they'll tell us who can go back when, or did you kind of want your hands on that a lot? What was the thought process with that?
Well, it's hard because you've got, several thousand students and families with all having voices, and oftentimes multiple kids, and challenges for daycare, working from home, all of the things that you juggle. So I really wanted to let the health professionals guide where we were going with our schools. We're pretty fortunate in that, I would be very concerned if our schools were in the condition when I took office 11 and a half years ago, because our Bresnahan Elementary School was a disaster. It was just horrible, and it was really old and no ventilation, poor electricity. We had almost 40% of our kids in moldy trailers hanging off the back of the building. So it's a brand new school, great air, windows that open in every classroom. So I felt that our schools were, and same thing, Moholland and all the renovations there. High school was the biggest challenge because you couldn't isolate cohorts, but I trusted the work that was being done by the leadership team and our health advisory team in terms of moving forward. I sure asked tons of questions, and certainly wanted to keep involved in the process. But I'm just hoping that we aren't jumping the gun.
Well said. Again, joined here by Newburyport Mayor Donna Holaday. keeping with that kids theme for 1 second, last time I was in Newburyport, it struck me that the probably middle school, high school age kids, they really did listen, I found, to a lot of the advice. I mean, maybe that's a generalized statement, but I was watching kids hanging out outside, sitting on top of cars, but being socially distant, kind of finding new ways to be together, wearing masks. Like, it seemed like the kids did a pretty good job. I'm sure some were better than others, but it seemed like kids kind of got the pressure that was on them and the responsibility that was on them. And you got to give a lot of credit, I think, to teachers and leaders in that regard as well.
And parents too. Yeah. I think the hard part was when, you had youth wanting to play sports, basketball. Once we found out that we didn't have to shut down the basketball hoops and, COVID wasn't lingering all over everything that we touch, because I think that was one of the, probably one of the most frightening things when they were telling us that it hangs on to inanimate objects for 3 weeks. It's like, what? But, and so that was of concern, especially when we were having a couple surges, watching kids, playing basketball in the skate park. But you're right, downtown, walking around, riding bikes, for the most part, you did see kids with masks. And if they didn't have them on, they certainly had them around their neck so that they could pull them up if they got into situations where they needed it. And I appreciated that, and certainly give credit to parents and give credit to their teachers and school leadership who really emphasized our safety.
Hopefully they're thinking about those parents in a lot of those situations. I don't want to bring this thing home.
Yeah, and I know a lot of kids talked about being able to see grandparents for the first time. That it had been so long and how hard that was.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Again, Newburyport Mayor Donna Holaday joining us. If somebody came up to you, I guess it feels like we're coming out of this, and it looks, and obviously the state is planning on reopening. But if somebody were to come up to you and said, say we're still going through the pandemic, we need you, please go again, would you do it? If this last year, did it take so much out of you that you could never even envision doing another term? Or do you does it almost make you feel rejuvenated because you're getting high marks through the pandemic?
Well, I've had a lot of people approach me and say, you can't, you have to, what are we going to do?
So you actually have gotten that?
Oh, everywhere, almost every day, someone says to me, but now people are beginning to accept the fact that, no, this is not questionable. This is not, if I get enough pushback that we can make her change her mind.
You don't go to blood pressure well.
Yeah, well, it's time. And, I would like to travel. I'd like to spend time with my family, some time with my husband. This has been really hard on my husband, and my family. He, I think, finally had it probably a year ago before the pandemic, a year and a half. Something was coming up, and he didn't like what was being posted on Facebook. And I, try to keep off of Newburyport Commons as much as possible, because it can be, who needs to read that stuff? People who are just being so negative and nasty. And so he starts writing something, posted. My chief of staff immediately texts me and says, do you know what your husband's doing? I went, Joe, what did you do? He said, I can't take it anymore. So, and he's had to really keep his mouth quiet, during all this time. And, because I don't engage in those kinds of dialogues. It's not worth it. It just isn't.
I would think you guys would want to put a Facebook ban. My goodness, with some of the junk that's on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's so true, though. I've thought about that often, even at every level. I mean, I think about it with some of the decisions Governor Baker has made, and not even that I agree with all of them, but sometimes I watch him make decisions. He's got the best interests at heart, even if you disagree, but it's, you see him make these decisions, and it's like, what he's going to say next is going to make half the people very, very angry. It's a no-win situation.
Oh, right. There's no question about it. I think about how challenging it was being a local leader, and then thinking about having to be responsible for 351 communities across the state, and that each one is different and has its own needs. And you have pockets where things are, fairly good in terms of numbers or in the past, and then others in some of these cities where they were just, burning red. It was just, they were really in trouble. So how do you make those balances in terms of taking care of all of these people?
What's the one thing that the outsiders did not get about trying to lead a big city like Newburyport, what's the one thing that people just don't understand, the thing that people don't think about, the difficulties that go like behind the scenes? What's the thing that when you write your book someday, what is it that will be in that first chapter?
Oh boy, there's so much. But I think the care of people and the care of your staff, not only of the community, but the deep relationships that I have developed with people who work in City Hall and work across the city. And people were having to deal with all kinds of family issues and health issues and money issues and scheduling, and those are the kinds of things that I can't tell you the individual meetings and contacts that I had trying to, help individuals work through some of these really difficult situations. I think those are probably the most challenging, never mind just the ones that you get in email, text, the phone calls into City Hall office, but, some real deep issues that people were struggling with. Family loss, family death, not being able to go to the hospital, not being able to go to the nursing home, not being able to go and be with someone who's on hospice. Those were heart-wrenching stories.
And I imagine too, pretty much every mayor I've talked to through this has said that some of the business owners that, they weren't in business almost took it personally. You're not letting me run my business. And that was a lot of what they would tell their leaders. And it's just, I don't know if it's obviously not a disconnect. You understand where the businesses are coming from, but I know every mayor had to deal with a lot of those. I'm sure you had plenty of business owners, restaurants, maybe calling. Those are tough conversations too, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. I think that being able to get the restaurants when they had to shut down, March, and then being able to switch to takeout and then get to the beginning of June last year, that some of the restaurants did okay being able to continue takeout and get, opened up outside in June. But, it's some of the smaller businesses, some of the other restaurants who didn't have the capability of being able to do that. And now one of the biggest challenges is trying to get workers in all sectors of our economy.
That's a real deal. I think people keep hearing those stories at a national level. It's happening here. It's
Oh yeah. I have restaurants that tell me they have to close Monday and Tuesday because they don't have enough staff. That's terrible. Especially that you could really use the income right now after this 15 month of hell that we've all been going through.
What is the one thing you think, and maybe this can be the next mayor, whoever that may be, I wonder, what is the one thing that you think we learned in this pandemic that we can carry through? The one thing that would not have hit us without it?
Well, I think that what amazed me was the care and resiliency of individual people across the city. There are so many stories of people helping each other. Those are the kinds of things that you pick up on your neighborhood blogs. I'm heading to the store. Who needs anything? Did you hear that so-and-so is sick? Can, people drop off? Drop off. That was very strange.
Are you going to miss the Zoom life?
Oh, hell no.
It is funny. We've done a lot of these.
Oh yeah, no. I can do 8 in a day, for goodness sakes. But I think the other thing is that you can get a lot done because you're not traveling from meeting to meeting. If I was heading into Mass Municipal Association, but I miss my peers dearly, it would be a half-day event, and you'd have time for maybe one more meeting late in the afternoon, as opposed to 8 Zoom meetings. So
that being said, I've thought about you a lot during this, because there are some mayors and some leaders who are actually okay with this. They don't mind running things out of their office. You were never really that mayor. You were a people person. You liked being there for the events. You liked showing up. That was always a big thing, at least from the outsider point of view. It seemed like you were there a lot. You wanted to be a real part of the community. And I wonder, That must have made the pandemic very hard in your position, among other things, obviously. But I kept thinking about you during this and
Yeah.
how it must annoy her quite a bit, not being able to be there for that ribbon cutting or that opening of whatever or
Well, they didn't
celebration.
even happen. That was the
Yeah,
other part too. All the, events that we're so used to seeing in the city, Great Chef's Night for Anna Jake's Hospital, that's a wonderful event. The Boys and Girls Club events, Jeannie Geiger Crisis Center. I mean, there's so many events that happen that, you spend time celebrating nonprofits and the work that they've done. And that was really hard, not being able to, I run into people now that I haven't seen in forever, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's great. Last week or 2 weeks ago was the annual chamber event, and it was the first, other than Governor Baker coming to the middle school 6-7 weeks ago to check out the surveillance pool testing, and I got to interview him and be in front of a microphone and people, small a socially distanced crowd, but to be at the Blue Ocean in Salisbury, about 40 people in the audience, and being able to give sort of a modified state of my city, because I've been delaying doing that, because I was not going to be here at the hub with a flag by myself giving my last state of the city. So it wasn't going to happen that way. So, I figured even if I do it in September, that's a good time to let people know what the state of the city after we're coming out of the pandemic. So anyway, yeah. So, and then on Friday we did the Police Memorial Peace Day. It was small, but again, it's nice to finally be out doing things with people. And we'll be doing a small Memorial Day event, and it'll be nice to see some of the senior vets that I haven't seen in a really long time and see how they're doing.
We talked a little bit about the governor earlier. I do wonder, just you don't have to grade him, but how would you say that working relationship has been? Because it's unique having to govern a state and work with all the mayors. And what has that relationship been like over the last year, as well as you wind down, as it turns out?
Well, I think it's been wonderful. He received a curt letter, let's say, from the mayor of Amesbury, Mayor Gove, was hoping that we would be able to continue vaccinating folks up here after we did the first responders. We came together with 8 communities following what DPH asked us to do, and you got to have 200 people in order to get some vaccine to distribute. And we did that, and all worked out beautifully. And we wanted to continue, and we couldn't get vaccine, and we didn't know what was going on. And so the governor called me and said, we would like you very much to keep running your clinic up there. And I was thrilled with that. And I said, this is great news, Charlie, and I'm very anxious to, get things moving. So let me get back to all the leaders in our clinics, in our abutting communities. And we pulled it off. And, he was very supportive of that. So I was grateful. We had trouble with getting the Parklet grant initially, and took 3 tries. And when we got the second one, they gave us 3 weeks. I was like, talking to Lieutenant Governor Polito, I said, Karen, we can't do this. We can't even issue do procurement in 3 weeks according to state laws, never mind try and complete this grant in 3 weeks. So they let us apply one more time. So, but it's also, you're still dealing with erosion and storms out on Plum Island. You still got winter, you still got to pave the roads, fix sidewalks, pass a budget. You still have to do all of the, work that's required to operate a city, and on the same time, make sure everybody's okay.
The things that make the job hard anyway, never mind a
Right,
pandemic.
right, right.
Who did you lean on through all this? Was it family? Was it do you have a mentor? Who's the person that everybody comes to you with the complaints during these things, but who was the person the mayor goes to when you need to bounce something off of?
I have a phenomenal chief of staff, Matt Coogan, um, who's been with me now about 2.5 years, and he's just, he's been wonderful. And what I like so much about Matt, not only is he very intelligent, committed, hard worker, learned the job really quickly. He had worked with Kim Driscoll in planning and in Gloucester. So he certainly knew his way around municipalities, but had no idea how hard he was going to work when he came to work for me. Um, but he, you know, between him and my executive assistant, Donna Holaday, who, comes from working for the president at Montserrat and for the a vice president at MIT, very, very skilled woman. And together they, really helped support me in work that I needed to get done, writing speeches for my weekly PSAs or, responding to constituent issues. I mean, just really, and of course it was important to have a good, strong connection with the superintendent and with our health department. But I would have to say Matt and Donna in particular were the ones who, also helped keep the work going forward, but also were ones who checked in on me personally. Kept yelling at me to take more time off, and it was like, what? Yeah, okay, we'll get to that.
And your husband was taking on the Facebook battle, so we had that covered.
Yeah, well, he did that, but he's amazing because he really he's an amazing musician, but he's also a chef. So he also made sure that I had wonderful meals when I would finally wander in from long day or multiple Zooms or whatever. So I'm grateful, very grateful to Joe too for his love and support.
Final two from me here. You've been at this a long time. You had, like we said, this has been an unbelievable run for the mayor of Newburyport. What did you learn during the pandemic about yourself, if anything? Was there you still learning things every day on the job? Was it still something new that would surprise you?
What did I learn? Outside of what we talked about in terms of people being so resilient and helpful to each other, I guess I learned that you have to be flexible. I mean, I think I am, but even more so because things were changing multiple times a day sometimes. And so, in being able to respond quickly when you need to, when things happen, and to be able to address issues and ensure that everyone's safe doing that. I mean, it was a struggle at times to keep, especially staff who are out, like say police doing details and our DPS staff, where are your masks? I mean, again, I kept emphasizing, the fact that we are role models and we have to lead in the city if we expect people to do the same. I also was surprised at how many people were still coming to Newburyport, during all of this. And I think I chalk it up to the good communication we had, a lot of good information on the website. I think people felt that we were on top of this pandemic and providing good information, setting up a mandatory mask zone, being able still to provide food through takeout and whatever. And so I think I think that was a surprise too. And when we did a video to let people know that we were reopening downtown after June, we could do the outdoor dining. I was really surprised that a short video that was released in a 50-mile radius had 1 million hits. It was, that says something, people surfing, looking for what to do. And then all of a sudden it was like, downtown's really crowded. People are there, people are spending money and, helping us limp forward and bring our economy back.
There's nothing that any of us are going to look back and there'll always be a part of the last year and a half that will make anybody cringe. I mean, such a dark moment in history, so many lives lost, all that stuff. You had mentioned that this is not how you envisioned going out, and there were projects that you wanted to get to. That pandemic had a different idea. But I wonder, do you think maybe in however many years, 5, 10 years, you might look back at this and say, thank goodness I was there at that time. This might be kind of the perfect last hurrah because nobody could have walked the city better than me. You needed that experience, and you were the right person at the right time.
Well, that's kind of a broad statement to make about yourself, but I've had that feedback from people that they were very grateful that I was there, because I think part of it too is being able to reassure people who are crying on the phone, people who are struggling, people who are isolated, trying to find ways to support them, trying to ensure that our families are getting fed. Just there was so many different things that were new during this year, and I found that just like say reaching out to Lindsay at our neighbor's table and saying, "We have a problem, we need some help," stepping up, reaching out to this group. And I was just so incredibly impressed with, that there'd be a new package of handmade masks delivered to my office, so because just because. And, I'm grateful that it was me. And I think part of it has to do with my background in social services, but I think also I've had a very, very stable department head, a team. We've worked incredibly hard and really well together. And so I think, and I've said it numerous times, I just have to pick up the phone and they'll be there
Yeah.
24/7. And so I think that helped too, because if you are trying to do this alone without a good team, I don't know how you could succeed.
Absolutely. One quick one to end. What would be your advice for the next mayor, or maybe even a young mayor anywhere in the country? What's that one key that everybody should have?
Listen,
Mhm.
communicate, and whatever you do, make sure you do not surround yourself with people who think like you. You'll miss a lot. You need to be able to have people who will challenge you, who will question you, who will even argue with you about something you're firm on, because you've got to be able to have much broader vision. And those are, I think, the best advice I can give anyone.
Well said. All right. Well, Mayor Donna Holaday, I know you're busy, so thank you again for taking some time out of your day with us. Congrats on this is the first time I've talked with you since I knew for sure you weren't running. So congrats on the great run. I know you've got a lot more work to do, but you deserve a lot of so many of our local leaders, I think, deserve so much praise for getting us through this, because I know it has not been easy. And it's some of those conversations at the dinner table when you go home, I know are tough. And I think a lot of people have had a lot more respect now for the local leaders and what they do on a daily basis after all this, if nothing else.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Mayor Donna Holaday, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks. You take care, Drew. We'll
Appreciate it.
talk again soon.